I said I was coming on at the top of the hour, and I am a little late. And one of the reasons I'm late, the main reason I'm late, this is my notebook, is because I was really trying to get my thoughts together. I got so excited. No, I'm waiting. I'm waiting just a minute, maybe not even a whole minute, even though I'm not sure what difference it makes because almost everybody watches the replays. Okay, one person's on, we're getting started. All right, so Friday afternoon here in Israel, shortly before ignore that loud noise, shortly before the Shabbat began, and I go offline, I found out, or I realized that the eclipse, the April 8th eclipse, is happening on the Jewish date of Rosh Chodesh Nissan, which is the first day of the month of Nisan. Rosh Chodesh, like Rosh Hashanah, Rosh means head. Rosh Hashanah means the head of the year. Rosh Chodesh means the head of the month. And this April 8th is the head of the month of Nisan. Oh my gosh. So what is it? Why is it described as a head? First of all, Rosh. Why doesn't it say the first of, the new of, the beginning of? Because the Rosh, like the head of the body, contains the entire thing. Like we know that every cell is in our brain, and our brain is in every cell. The Rosh is the seed form. The Rosh, there are many things you could say about this. There's a leader of there's a collective soul in the world that is called Rosh B'nai Israel, which by the way is an acronym for Rebbe. There are many, many different examples of Rosh. I have this idea about head. It's connected also with Rishon, which means first, but it's not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like it's the 1st of January. It's like first, like Rishon, like it precedes it. Everything is founded on it. So the head of the month is just to put it in simple words, is a powerful, like a blast of new cosmic energy that comes into the world in a certain form. And the form is determined by a combination of what is the nature of the month. Hey, Gila. Hi, Vanessa. Hi, Edna. I'm already getting on the roll. It's a blast of energy that combines the energies of the particular cosmic function of that particular month or the year, the energies of the time, the energies of our collective focus and intention of the time, and God's focus and intention of the time, and the day of the week in which it happens, and on and the events in which it's connected to. It's like a combination. It's like if you had a big bowl, like a closed bowl, and you put all of these different factors in the bowl and shook them up, and they were all different colors, you would get a particular colored energy that our job and our opportunity is to download and to use, to internalize and to use to change the world in accordance with our own desires and God's desires, which really are, if you get down to the core, basically the same. Okay, at least that's what they're meant to be. So Rosh Chodesh Nissan, what is Rosh Chodesh Nissan? Why did I get so excited? Or maybe we should talk about what's an eclipse first. Let's talk about what's an eclipse. So I know there are a lot of different opinions on what an eclipse represents, and I've heard Torah opinions. I have not actually heard this one, but it seems so obvious. It's got to be written in different places. I just haven't read it. That the moon represents the souls of Israel, and by extension, all souls. You could say humanity, which is the feminine, the source of the souls. It's the feminine aspect of God, the Shekhinah. And the sun represents the masculine. But on another fractal level, the moon represents the Jewish people, whose job it is to bring down a higher light, or souls of Israel. When I say the Jewish people, yes, it means the Jewish people, but also by extension, it means those who join the Jewish mission. All souls come from one soul root. And that was expressed in the first man, Adam. And then we split apart in all kinds of different ways. Now there are 8 billion of us practically just alive at this time. That may be most souls that are alive. Maybe Rabbi Avram Sutton told me that in a recent interview that all souls had to come back to this generation because this is the mop-up effort. This is like when we have to finish everything. So all parts of us that were unrectified, all tasks that were not yet done, things that have to be changed or completed, relationships that have to be elevated, all of that stuff, that has to happen now. This is like the finale of the show. I can't say for sure how it's going to unfold or how long it's going to take, what it's going to be like, but there's no question about that. There's absolutely no question. I don't know. Hey, Julie, I don't know if anybody has questions about that anymore, at least anybody who is part of our soul tribe. Anyway, so the moon represents the souls. The Jewish people is compared to the moon and counted like the moon. The moon represents the feminine principle, the Shekhinah. And the sun in this fractal, in the human level, the sun represents the nations of the world. Now, there's a story from the Torah, from the Bible, from the Torah, about Joshua, the successor to Moses, that when it came time, when the Jews were in a battle with enemies, that they were getting tired and night was falling and it was getting dangerous, he asked for help and God stopped the sun so that it didn't get dark. He stopped the sun so it didn't get dark. But the Rebbe explains, and this happened in Parshas Korach, the Rebbe explained that he asked the question, did he just stop the sun? Did God just stop the sun, or did he stop all of the entire orbits of the constellations and the heavenly bodies? And the answer was he stopped everything. Why? Because Kabbalistically, what is the mamutza, what is the connecting factor between physical and spiritual, the physical and spiritual realms? What controls events of earth? Like, what is the mechanism? It's all God. It's all by total intimate divine consciousness and divine intention. But what is the mechanism? You're driving your car. It's your intention where you want to go. But what actually fulfills that intention? What vehicle makes that intention manifest? It's the steering wheel and whatever comes behind it. So this steering wheel, we could say, is the orbits of all of the heavenly bodies. This is the mamutza. This is the connecting factor between the physical and the spiritual realms, and the movements of the heavenly bodies. I've talked about this before briefly. The movements of the heavenly bodies are controlled by the angels called ofanim. They're the cycle angels, ofanim, and ofanayim in Hebrew is a bicycle. Ofanim are wheels. The cycles are wheels, right? So we are taught that even though the constellations, the heavenly bodies, the stars, the sun, the moon, all can contribute to a science of predicting people's tendencies and tendencies of events and so forth, like astrology. That's called astrology, and it is a science, and it is something real. The Egyptian sorcerers used it. It's legitimate, even according to Jewish law, to use it to help understand our own personalities, other people's personalities, issues that we might have, but we're not allowed to predict with it. Why? Because we are considered not under the stars. We have to be over the stars. We are here to be co-creators, and that's something that needs very connected to the times, so connected to the times. I'm sorry I'm stumbling over my words a little bit, but sometimes I feel like there's a flow, like a stream of flow that's coming by me, and I have to try to catch it and make words and coherence out of it. So please forgive me if that's not coming so easily. Sometimes it's faster than others. So anyway, we have this idea, we have this historical event that God stopped the sun for Joshua, or Joshua stopped the sun so that the armies of the children of Israel could continue to fight in the light, but also because when the sun stopped, the nations, their enemies, were getting energy from the sun. They were getting energy from this natural order of cycles that the astrological movements and events were the mechanism for, the vehicle for. So when all of that stopped, what happened? The natural order stopped. God suspended the natural order in order to allow a supernatural victory. So that's the idea of the sun and the moon. So I'm thinking, hey, Ron. Hi, Cheryl. Jesse, thank you. I'm thinking, it's so good to be with you guys. I'm thinking very much that when the moon blocks the light of the sun, the supernatural power of the souls is now rising in potential to show its true ability to stand in front of and block the efforts of the natural order of the enemy. One of the things there's a very thin and very powerful, there are 3 commandments in the Torah that generally the commandments we're supposed to live with them, not die from them. So many of the commandments, if it's a danger, even a remote danger to life, you're obligated to break those commandments. Like, even eating on Yom Kippur So if somebody's in, if it would present a danger, I know people are not allowed to fast, even from like diabetes or whatever, even though it's considered one of the holiest and most, mitzvahs, commandments with a severe penalty for not keeping it. But yet when it comes to life proceeds, but there are 3 areas in which life doesn't proceed according to the Torah, and one of them is called avodah zarah. It's idol worship. Why? Because the core purpose of our interaction in the world is to reveal the truth that there is one God, and God is the source of everything. God is the essence of everything. So when we start to get into the way things work and we start to worship anything in nature, that's a problem. That's counter to our purpose here. So we see that there's a movement of of the, whatever you want to call them, the elite, the dark side, you name them what you will, that it's coming out more and more that they use occult powers in order to manipulate natural forces in order to pursue their ends. This is also what the people of the Tower of Babel did. Seems pretty clear that these are the same souls, or at least coming from the same souls. So that is a war directly against the core. And it seems that when the moon blocks the sun, we block that power. All of that power stops, and what takes its place? So here's where I want to talk about Rosh Chodesh Nissan, the first day of the month of Nisan. So Rosh Chodesh Nissan, the Rebbe talked about this very specifically at least in one place that I learned. I mean, there's so many things I haven't learned, but the things that I have learned, sometimes I learn them again and again. So on the 3rd day of the month of Nisan in 1989, the Rebbe talked about this Rosh Chodesh Nissan. And he quoted the Torah, the Bible, the Chumash talks about it and says, this month, this day, this month should be for you, Rosh Chodesh Rishon, for you, the first of all of the months of the year. So I want to do this as abbreviated as I can. When it says this month should be for you, it means you must internalize the energy of this month. And when it says it's the first, the Rishon, remember I said Rishon means like the foundation, like the core energy of. So there's something about the month of Nisan, the first day of Nisan, which is meant to be internalized by us. And it's meant to be the beginning of all of the months of the year. Not that it's the first and every month is second, third, fourth, fifth, but it's the beginning, it's the Rosh. It stands in front, giving energy, feeding energy to, feeding power to, feeding shape to every month of the year. What is the power of the month of Nisan? So there are 2 ways that, as I mentioned before, that Torah looks at I think see it as almost like a roulette wheel. It's a wheel of time. So if you look at one side of the wheel of time, you have 6 months that begin with the month of Tishrei. The first day of Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah. That's considered the new year. That is when we change the year. But on the exact opposite side of the wheel, the first month of the year, the first day of the year is Rosh Chodesh Nissan. So the Rebbe explains what's the difference, and there are many places where it explains this, but what is the difference between the Rosh Hashanah side of the year and the Rosh Chodesh Nissan? By the way, Nisan is the month in which Passover occurs. Pesach Nisan is the month. The name of Nisan comes from the word nes, which means miracle, which means to go above nature. So the side of the wheel that begins with Rosh Hashanah, that is the side that represents the natural order. God created the world in such a way, using the Ophanim, the cycle angels, and all of the cycles in the universe, which convince us that things run on their own. That's the nature of cycles. That's the purpose of cycles. They're here to convince us that things are going on their own, that everything is natural, that there doesn't have to be a creator. And there are many people who do believe that there was a creator, but kind of he got bored and left. I don't know where he went, but he left all these cycles, and now they're going on their own and on their own. And anything that happens is random, or we're doing it, or whatever, or maybe God's looking kind of in a disinterested way, waiting, watching. None of those things are remotely true. But the cycles are designed divinely to give us the ability to believe that there is a world that exists on its own, without a creator, without a source, without an intimate, active, ever-present, constantly recreating. Kabbalah tells us that the world is being uncreated at every instant and recreated from divine nothingness. It doesn't even exist on its own for an instant, for a nano instant. It's all God. It's all God's intention. And God exists at the core of every one of us. But this is God created a world in such a way that we can have free choice. So you have this free choice between, sometimes I call it Moses, Israel, and Pharaoh, Egypt, because Egypt was all about the occult. Nisan is all about the exodus from Egypt. It's no accident here. Pharaoh used to go, they say Pharaoh used to go to the bathroom in the wee hours before anyone woke up, because he promoted himself as a god, and everyone believed him to be a god. So gods don't go to the bathroom. So he had to do it in secret. And Pharaoh, when Moses first was sent by God to Pharaoh to say, let my people go, Pharaoh was like, God sent me. Pharaoh's like, apparently he looked up God in his roster of gods and didn't find God and said, I don't know this God. What are you talking about? But Pharaoh himself believed that he was a god. So we are in this world in a kind of spiritual dynamic war. It takes place in each of us, in our consciousness, and it takes place in our communities. It takes place in our nations. It takes place in our culture. It takes place in our eras. That is the ongoing war between whether it is God, who's God, or whether it's Pharaoh and all of his panoply of idols that he worships and mechanisms. I mean, the spirituality, the magic in Egypt was very strong. Egypt was the international capital of black magic, and people used to go from all over the world to study occult arts there. And again, what are occult arts? It's the natural order, manipulation of the natural order, not just things that we know about, things that, the manipulators know about. And we're all starting to get the sense that there's some deep, dark, weird, supernatural stuff going on, but it's not godliness. It's anti-godliness when it's used the way it's used. We're not allowed to use forces that are separate, because nothing's separate. Again, our whole purpose is to unify, to expose, to reveal that there's only one God, one plan, one humanity. When the Jews received the Torah, as it says, we were there camped in front of Mount Sinai as one person with one heart. Not easy to achieve, doesn't happen most of the time, barring a divine revelation, but we're working on it. We're getting closer. Most of us are getting closer. There are huge things happening inside, huge. And I don't think, and we're being, even in the face of the fear and, and the distraction and the constant bombardment with frequencies that distort the mind and chemicals and, we all know all the bad news, but look at the good news. Look at how we are winning. Look at how we are prevailing. Look at how our consciousness is growing. Look at how our union is growing. Those of us who are conscious, the more authentically conscious, the more we lean into understanding other people. I listened actually it was posted on Gila's chat. There are a lot of cool things posted there. So I listened to, on high speed, a conference with what's his name? Sasha Stone. And he had an American Indian shaman and people from Mexico and different leaders, spiritual leaders. And they were talking about a convergence of the native indigenous tribes from the East and the West. And what I kept hearing was what the Rebbe said, that the world will recognize Geula and the world redemption, the world will help to reveal it. And what I did not expect and what is blowing me away more and more and more is the detail and the personalness and the humanness and the universal nature of this phenomenon of the souls rising and divine consciousness rising from within all kinds of people from all different places. That's phenomenal. I got activated into this whole Geula, this redemption thing in 1991. I had no idea that the world, on the negative side, if I'd known that it was going to go on till now, I probably would have committed however you say it. I don't see how I could have ever been involved. But on the other hand, you see, like I read something just today where somebody went to one of his father, who was one of the Rebbes. Was it the Rebbe Rashab? I don't remember. And he said, why isn't Mashiach here yet? And the Rebbe said, what do you expect? For Mashiach means everybody has to know God from within. So, the texts are coming out. The revelations are coming out. So if everybody has to know God from within, that's starting to happen. Okay, so it's just phenomenal. So look at the light of the souls and the rising of the souls. that is present tense and moving forward and mind-blowingly unbelievable and wondrous. And then look at the forces of opposition that represent, so we'll call that representing the moon, or represented by the moon, and the souls of Israel and Moses. And then look at the occult, that is, and the manipulation of the occult, the Avodah Zarah, the idol worship, which we'll look at as Pharaoh and the Egyptians, and the black magic that is coming out in front of our eyes. It's just begun, but it's so obvious that it goes deeper and deeper and deeper, darker and darker. But it didn't come from nowhere. This has always been the paradigm. We just didn't realize. It was under the surface for a long time. It was out of the surface in Egypt. And God took us out of Egypt and broke a big piece of that occult. Like it was known to be impossible to escape from Egypt, not just because the guards were so skilled with their bows and arrows or whatever technology they had, but because there was a spiritual level of mind control that made it impossible to get out of slavery. So God had to send Moses and himself break through Egypt, break through that klipa, that spiritual impurity with the plagues. Every one of the plagues was breaking through a different level of that impurity. Okay, so back to where, circling back to where, when I talk, I see images and words, and so they're kind of floating in front of me. I don't want to lose anything. So these two sides of the wheel, Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of the natural order. That's what we're talking about, how the cycles conceal the truth. They're designed to conceal the truth so that it's possible for Pharaoh to hold reign. It's possible for people to make people believe that there is no such thing as God, that there is no such thing as hope, that there is no such thing as a soul. That natural order goes to a higher level all the time, which is why we see constant these days flood of innovation in science and technology and communication. And, some of it's used for the bad, some of it's used for the good. It's from the category of klipa, of a spiritual shell that's called klipa noga. It's translucent. It can be used either way. But then you have the side of Moses, of Moshe, which is the side of Kedusha, of holiness. And that is represented by Rosh Chodesh Nissan, by Nisan in general, where God himself came to Egypt and broke the klipa, broke the shell of impurity and the mind control and the arrogance of Pharaoh, broke it and freed the souls. Now, it's true that we've been through a lot of ups and a lot of really horrible downs. But the soul, the bodies have been able to be enslaved since then. And definitely confusion is a possibility. But essentially, when push comes to shove, the soul's free. It wasn't the case before God broke that shell of Egypt. It wasn't the case before the Exodus. And we were given the Torah as a result. And the Torah is transforming the nature of nature. So that so many things that were obviously impossible for a very long time are now obviously accessible. And that's happening more and more and more. So the Rosh Hashanah and Tishrei is the recreation of the natural order on a higher level. So more is possible in nature, more is possible on the earth from humans and for humans. What is Rosh Chodesh Nissan? And here is where it so blew my mind, just looking at all of this picture. Rosh Chodesh Nissan is the Rosh Hashanah of miracles and redemption. God created and on Rosh Hashanah, a new influx of whatever the Rosh Hashanah is bringing in comes into the world on a level that never existed before. So every single Rosh Chodesh Nissan, the first day of Nisan, April 8th this year, an entirely new, massive influx of the power of miracles and redemption comes into the world. And like it says in the Torah, HaChodesh hazeh lechem, meaning that this power of miracles and redemption needs to be absorbed and internalized by us and used to transform us and our world. It starts with your personal world, your day, your family, your work, your mind, your heart, your cell wiring, which is what we're doing in this Metamorphosis challenge. We're working on the cell wiring. We're working on all of it, but it's got to come into the cell wiring. So Rosh Chodesh Nissan, on Rosh Chodesh Nissan, God is hiding the power of the sun, the lies of the natural order, the power, the potential for the occult. He is hiding that, covering that, occluding that with the light of the moon, which is the light of the souls, as we are downloading, and we better be downloading, and internalizing this never before experienced, never before existing new level of energy for miracles and redemption. That's what's happening during the eclipse. There may be other things happening too. I'm hearing a lot of weird stuff. We don't know, if you live in America or maybe anywhere else, stock up on food and water. You should probably be doing that anyway. Although people who don't, hopefully will be protected. I know that many people here believe this, and I believe this, and I'm really trying to wire it in more and more, that we're each in our own golden bubble of godliness. Should we choose to connect to that, establish that around us, and bring God into it, that everybody's in their individual reality. So we want to be, each of us, a place of quiet in the storm. And from our place of quiet and peace in the storm, which is a characteristic of redemption, a state of redemption is peaceful, it's abundant, it's prosperous, it's grateful, it's happy, joyful, loving, alive. So from there, we want to radiate out into the world the divine message, the divine consciousness, and especially the light of miracles and redemption. This will happen while we're cleaning for Pesach, for sure. We can clean for Pesach. Those of you not familiar, for Pesach, for Passover, people who observe Passover can't have any leaven. It's called chametz in our possession. Certainly not in our kitchen, really nowhere in the house or the car or anything else. Any little piece of bread, a crumb, or anything made with wheat or spelt or barley or oats, all of that is leaven, is chametz. So it can be very extreme, and people can be very bent out of shape, if they have to do it. So it is a tremendously positive activity to do Pesach cleaning with joy, with relaxation, with an awareness that God loves you, and your joy is as important as everything else. So we want to be, part of this challenge is we want to be moving toward doing as much as we possibly can with joy. Joy should be our default, or rather, the goal is that joy become our default. Then when we don't feel joy, either we can use tools that we have the ability to learn and master to switch back to joy. Sometimes, like Tony Robbins, always starts everything with change your state, turn on the music, get up and dance, plaster a smile on your face. Do you know that there's research that shows that when a person smiles, even if it's fake, like actors and actresses who are in plays where they have to laugh, or anybody who just pretends for a little bit of time. I don't think it's a lot of time. I think it might be a minute or two. Your physiology, they take blood, test blood, and the physiology changes just from a fake smile. Can you imagine, if you get up and move your body and you're dancing and laughing or listening to comedy routines, or, looking for things that make you feel a sense of beauty. Video online, kids laughing, that's a big one. Animals doing funny things. There's so many ways to change your state. And then there are times when we can't easily change our state. And you have to learn to know yourself. That's part of wisdom. But we need to learn that when we cannot change our state, it's often a call to go deep inside and to shed some light and love and harmony on emotions, on traumatic emotions that are not processed, and to bring God into those spaces where we push consciousness and love away. So that's a whole technique of its own that is super, super powerful when you master it. But either way, we're changing our wiring for joy. So I've talked about the eclipse. If there's anything I forgot, I'll probably remember it later. Let me see what you guys have to say. Hi, Chase, Ruthie, Annalie, Norman, Bookmouse, Irma. So nice to see you guys. Breast love teaches to be happy. You know how many times I think the core of Torah is to be happy, even though it's not presented as our prime directive. And if we were only meant to be happy, the world wouldn't look like it has been, like it does. But the prime directive that we do have is to transform darkness to light, and to reveal godliness everywhere, to reveal divine purpose, to put the Aleph in the exile. So, at these times, in order to make that transformation, the most powerful way is happiness. Also, the month of Adar brings down the most tremendous power for transformation, which leads up to Rosh Chodesh Nissan. Isn't that unbelievable? I mean, who's surprised that this eclipse, it's not just that there's an eclipse, like who really cares, Okay, it could be cool, okay, the moon's blocking the light of the sun, that's good, that's apropos. But why is the world so focused on this thing? I'd love to hear what you guys think. Why, from every side? Like I've seen a number, I'm sure you all have as well. I've seen a number of notifications that people post on Telegram or whatever from their states talking about how to, have a little food and water, how to prepare alternate routes, if you're going to get anywhere. Okay, maybe they expect parties and traffic jams, but this early and such a big deal. But then also from so many people who are tuned in, like this group of people that I listened to their recording yesterday. Everyone's expecting, like they said, the epicenter of the eclipse is over something called the I forgot what they called it. This Silent Valley, Silent Cone of Silence. I don't remember, Silent something in Mexico. And then they showed a picture of it from a distance, which looks like a navel. That's the place where the eclipse will be the longest. I think it's 4 minutes and 28 seconds. And they're preparing to have what we call in Torah kavana, to have intense, focused intentions and to bring down the energy. Why? Why is everyone focused like this? And I've come to the more and more the belief that, yeah, there are a lot of wacky things out there. That's also really obvious. And sometimes it really pisses me off because I see that people make up things all the time. A lot of times they're negative. Sometimes they're not, but people will say with total confidence, this person's dead, this thing happened, that's a fake, that's a clone, that's a this, that's a that. And how do you know? And sometimes you might be right, and a lot of the time you might be wrong. And so I'm like more and more like, people's assumptions. It doesn't matter. And how do you know? And one person says something, and then that becomes a firm source for the next person to say it. Nancy Pelosi actually talked about this as the wrap-up smear in the other direction, where they would feed a story. I'm sure you probably heard this, but where they would feed a story not true to some kind of press who would print it or broadcast it, and then that would be the source of the news, and other people would then follow and share it as reality, and then it would become real out of nothing. So too much of that is happening. At the same time, in my opinion, there is something, and it's more and more prevalent, like so many of the inner things, so many of the soul things, so much of the spiritual world is more and more revealed now. There is something in us that ever more easily and ever more accurately and ever more universally is triggering awareness and triggering thoughts that are moving through humanity, not necessarily based on any actual information that's coming through, the manifested world, but information that's coming through the unmanifested world and the inner senses. And I think that it's really, really interesting. And the fact that that by itself, and the fact that, they've done studies that show that people predict a few seconds at least before something happens, people are aware that it's going to happen. And I think that's getting bigger and much bigger than, and the longer, bigger gap, bigger time space where people are aware before something happens. And in general, our emotions, the effect of our emotions, like all spiritual things, all non-physical things, is stronger and stronger. So that's something to know. But what's fascinating to me is that so many people are seeing this as such a huge event, as such a transformational, foundational event that's bringing in new energy. And that was fascinating before I realized that it's Rosh Chodesh Nissan. Now that I know that it's Rosh Chodesh Nissan, I know that this energy is coming down. It's obvious that this energy is coming down, and somehow it's going to be connected with the eclipse, whether overtly or covertly. Some people think it's going to be the beginning of the massive takedown or huge changes or upgrades or or both. But without a doubt, this is a time of a brand new influx of divine energy, divine consciousness, and divine miraculous power. So all-star crew here this morning. Oh, in the chat, yeah, isn't there? The Eastern. Oh yeah, I wanted to say. I'm going to look at the chat in a sec. Nineveh. A lot of people have talked about Nineveh. So this tribe probably knows that Nineveh was the huge metropolis of the time, hundreds of years after the Exodus. And God sent Jonah to go warn the people of Nineveh that they were not behaving well and that their city was going to be destroyed. But God gave them a warning, and Jonah did not want to give that warning, and he was swallowed up by the fish and spit up on the shore, and etc. And they did repent, and they were not destroyed. So the Rebbe used to talk about America, like somebody just pointed out, who just said that the eclipse is going to be in the eastern U.S. Is it only the eastern U.S.? I didn't catch who said that. But it's the U.S. It is the U.S. Oh, book mouse. Yeah. I don't know what part of, I haven't looked at the map, so I'm not sure what part of the U.S. Definitely, as I said, they say that the longest duration, so the epicenter will be in Mexico. I don't know if it's in Canada too. Okay, interesting. So America the Rebbe talked about America a lot. America, you could definitely say, is Mexico, the U.S., and Canada. That continent, although they have different governments. I think the Rebbe was specifically speaking about America because America was founded on the principles of liberty and justice, based on the idea that there is such a thing as justice, that there is, that there is a universal law, a universal creator, which gives America a huge edge, which is probably why these dark forces took America. America was also the world's superpower for a long time. For quite a while, it was America and Russia together against each other. Then Russia fell. Russia's still kind of a superpower. America is also, in a way, falling, has been falling, but America is definitely considered to be the superpower, or the biggest country, the biggest, New York being the biggest city, being the Rome of our day. There are a lot of prophecies that talk about Rome, and it's considered to be New York, actually, northeast diagonally through Texas. 9 Nineveh cities, interesting. 9 is the number of emes, of truth. Very interesting. Very interesting. So anyway, the Rebbe talked a lot about America, and usually to extol the goodness of America. Without any doubt, the Rebbe knew what was going on behind the scenes. But when it comes to the American people, by and large, and especially if you would subtract the brainwashing that's been done over the last, and the forced political correctness and agendas that have been put into law, and all of those things that have been foisted on America over the past whatever, I mean, really extremely for the last several decades. But if you would extract that and dial back to the basic American consciousness, let's say before Obama got into power, people were pretty good. People still are mostly pretty good, but people were really pretty good. And looking to create good and kind, and wanting to help others, other nations, wanting to, even though there was a certain natural arrogance in America, I certainly shared that, like, who's anyone in the world to tell us what we can't have and what we can't use, and try to, but that maybe people who are more closely surrounded by their neighbors and their enemies might not have. But still, America was in a privileged place, and America used a lot of its privileges for the good. And at least the Rebbe spun it that way many, 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 many times. He called America the nation of chesed, the people of chesed, of kindness. And there is a natural, I know Rabbi Mendel Kessen refers to America as the Tov Sheba-Esav, like America is descended from Esau. The Western nations are descended from Esau in Torah, and the Jews are descended from Yaakov, from Jacob. And then there are other nations that are, Europe is also descended from Esau. And then the Eastern nations are descended from the children of Abraham that were with his wife Keturah, which Hagar, who converted to Judaism, and he remarried her after Sarah died. Anyway, that's not the point. But the point is that America has these qualities of Esau, the older brother of Jacob, of Yaakov, and their father predicted that they were twins, actually. And Esau was born first, and Yaakov tricked him into giving the birthright, which he didn't want anyway. And there's been discord ever since then, really bad discord, and a rectification process. And at the end of days, we're told that Esau will support and help Yaakov. And that's definitely the case in America. Not only in America, but it's been especially in America. Again, minus the brainwashing and minus the institutions that try to undermine, which is at this point almost all institutions. What can we do? It's all divine providence, because the moon is meant to cover the sun, and the moon is meant to shine from the inside. The sun on this level, on another, like I said in the beginning, in another fractal, the sun represents a Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He. But now we're talking about the nations versus the souls of Israel and the people who support the mission of Israel, the good souls, the souls who are fighting for the right, who are fighting with the light. So our souls are meant to shine from the inside, and that's part of what this darkness is here to catalyze, and that's part of what the metamorphosis is about. And the power to do that comes from Rosh Chodesh Nissan. And although it will come, it's come before and it will come again, the one and only time that we receive this tremendous influx with a whole new decree and a whole new potential for the coming year. I always see the year, like I said, as a wheel, like a roulette wheel. We go around the days and the weeks and the months, and the energies get distributed in accordance with how much we've pulled in and how we absorb and use it and combine it with other energies. That's a real thing. So the one and only downloading of this incredible cosmic energy of miracles and redemption that is happening this year is happening on April 8th, really the night of April 7th, wherever you are in the world, and the day of April 8th. And it's coinciding with this incredible cosmic event, which also, you might have heard, or maybe you haven't, but HeartMath, was it HeartMath who did studies? There's certain centers, I don't claim to understand the technology, but there's certain receptors that are set up around the world that measure the Earth's electromagnetic field. And there's certain times when the consciousness of humanity is united. It doesn't have to be in a good way. It can be in any way. Like one of the examples was 9/11. One of the examples is the death of Princess Diana. Whenever there's everyone's attention with emotion is on an event, the Earth's electromagnetic field spikes in big ways. And the electromagnetic field also feeds in a loop, feeds down to us and creates the feelings that we have and the insights that we have. It has a huge effect on us. So this is one of the actual physical ways that our consciousness changes our reality by going up and then up, coming down. Of course, prayer does that too. Visualization does that too, but it literally is coming out in the Earth's electromagnetic field. So with everybody so many people in the world, everybody focused on April 8th, whether from a place of fear or more often at this point from a place of anticipation on whatever level. It's going to be cool. It's going to be transformational. When our powers are going to rise, whatever it is that people are feeling, there's a tremendous amount of focused conversation and concentration and thought and intention around this, even weeks before. We're not at weeks anymore. We're at less than a week. Or we're about a week. No, we're a little more than a week. It's the last day of March. Yeah. So we're 9 days, I guess. 9 Ninevehs, 9 days, and counting down. But that is definitely affecting the Earth's electromagnetic field and the ways that things will come out. So the assignment for today in our Metamorphosis Challenge, and I'll look at the chat after this and see if there's anything else you guys want me to answer, but the assignment for today, our group focus for today, is to use that energy to focus our positive thoughts and attention on what we want to bring down in Rosh Chodesh Nissan. And again, we're not dropping the things we've done before. We're using the bracelet or whatever it is that we shift whenever we have a thought that is like, so that we can remind our brain, delete that, go somewhere else. We're rewiring the brain and the cells. That's the primary thing we're doing in this challenge. And then to make ourselves happy, make other people happy, be happy with other people, and then to notice the divine providence, to get the left brain to start to notice how the world is being recreated at every instant on your behalf. So surrendering to the flow, looking for the good, revealing the olive, the divine purpose in everything, and noticing the synchronicities. And now we're going to be focusing on the rise of consciousness in the world, and especially specifically in association with Rosh Chodesh Nissan, whether people know that that's what they're focusing or not. Somehow God got the entire world to focus on Rosh Chodesh Nissan this year. What do you think about that? The entire world focusing on, and in this sense, maybe the fractals intersect because people will be focusing on the sun. And God is often, Torah often uses God as a metaphor for the sun as well as for the nations. And I'm not comparing the nations to God. That's not my point at all. Often they think they're God, that those powers, and maybe that's where the comparison is. But nevertheless, that people would be focusing together like this and are already focusing together, that's something that I don't think ever happened before. So we as a collective here want to focus our intention, our prayer, our thought on bringing down this miraculous energy starting now, preparing for it through happiness, through upgrading the brain and the body and the actions and changing our state for the positive and helping other people to do the same. But now we're already heading toward Rosh Chodesh Nissan. Now we're already, the word kavana, which means intention, also means direction. Like we're focusing our direction in on that, on being ready for that download, receiving that download, creating receptors for that download right now. So I don't want to give you more than one assignment. Let me just think if this fits. I'm gonna give you this, and I'm gonna give you this, and we're not broadcasting every day. So in the Sikha where the Rebbe talked about, I didn't even say this. Maybe I should talk about it more tomorrow or next time I broadcast. Anyway, we are here to actually bring in this energy. The Rebbe said after 3,300 years, now what is it, 3,334, 3,335 since the giving of the Torah? If you know, post it here. But after every year receiving this new influx of total miraculous potential, but not using it or hardly using it. It's like if you keep getting a new package of like amazing gifts, or you keep getting a new deposit of money, you think you're poor, you think you're impoverished, you think you're broke, and someone keeps putting all this money every year into your account, but you don't know it's there. Or maybe it's a secret account that you don't know you have. So the Rebbe is saying, open the account and start to spend that money. Open the miracle account and start to become miraculous. That's what we're supposed to do. That's how we absorb this energy on the beginning of Nisan. And the way specifically, or at least one of the ways that we specifically do this, is through going beyond our nature. So when we go beyond our nature, I will talk about this more in the next broadcast because it's too much to say today, but every time we go beyond our nature, we're stepping out into the quantum. Your nature, your identity. It's not your nature is your identity in this case. It's like, I am the type of person who's shy. I'm the type of person who, is skeptical. I'm the type of person who I don't have what it takes to influence people. I'm the type of person who doesn't know how to, whatever it is that we believe about ourselves, we're not looking to change the positive. We're looking to change the negative, the limiting. So anytime you take one tiny action, even one tiny action beyond your nature on behalf of any worthy goal. And what's a worthy goal? It's not just to do holy things. It's to make your world a better place. Being happy beyond your nature, one step, or making someone else happy beyond your nature. To do that, one step actually puts you in the quantum. How come? Because when you keep repeating the same behavior inside of the same boundaries, you're reinforcing that identity. That is natural. That's the natural universe, like controlled by the cycles. These are my cycles. I get up at this time. I go to sleep at this time. I have my house clean to this level, not to that level. I have this much money, not that much money. I have this much courage, not that much courage. I have this much love, not that much love. Whatever it is, I'm this much shy, not that much shy. I'm this much bold, not that much bold. I'm this much spiritual, not that much spiritual. We are here to break through. We are not here to be under the stars. We are here to guide the stars. We really are. We're here to change the nature of nature. And how do we do that? By stepping out of even one tiny step out of our own nature, a big one's fine too, into the quantum, meaning the unmanifested. The quantum means the unmanifested potential, the ayin. Ayin is the mazel of Adar. We talked about that in the last broadcast. And when you take an action on behalf of a worthy cause, big or small or medium, from the quantum, now you're changing what's available inside of the sphere of human existence, inside the natural order of the universe. And you're moving back the laws of nature by one step. Not just for you, but for everyone. So we're here to break through the nature of our nature. We're here to break into the quantum. And in doing so, we become partners with God in revealing what's behind all of this, bringing in more of that divine energy of miracles and wonders and redemption and godliness and oneness and joy and healing and prosperity. These are the prophecies of Geula. This is what we're here for. So going a step beyond your nature, that is the other piece of this assignment. What is an area, and I'd love to hear from you guys, and then we'll conclude. I almost ended at half an hour, and then I didn't. But I want to hear from you guys. I'm looking through the chat to see what you're saying to me, and then I want to hear from you. Now I want to hear from you. What's one area of your life? What's one worthy cause, one worthy goal, and what's one action that you could take beyond what you consider to be your nature? As you're typing, I hope I'm reading. Let us clean our souls. Yeah. Yeah, it is as if they're planning for something bad to happen, but like that seems to be the nature of Jennifer. Thanks for sharing that. That seems to be the nature of our reality. That's the nature of I want to say beast. It's the nature of the divine game. We're here to transform darkness into light, and it seems like they're so far until the birth, which we are on the verge of the birth. We're in the birth process. We're in the birth canal. There's no doubt. But until it's finished, how does it happen? Contraction, expansion, contraction, expansion. So contraction doesn't feel good, but it pushes everything forward. So we can just anticipate, that they're talking like that, and we can use that energy to push forward, because our united consciousness, as we already discussed, is massive, and more massive all the time. Pharaoh used astrology. That's it. It's tried and proven. It's been around for a long time. No one cared about the lunar eclipse. It's interesting. It's all interesting. Okay, I'm catching up. Hi, Carl. A loss of hope in the U.S. I'm not there right now, so I can't feel the energy. Bookma says Obama's like Pharaoh. Have you ever seen those pictures? If you would Google Obama Pharaoh, you will see a side by side, or maybe you have to do something other than Google, but Google might work. You'll see a side by side picture of his face and Akhenaten, the pharaoh of the time, and they do look alike. They look very much alike. Another weird thing, who knows? Yes, U.S. is the good part of Esau, for sure. Thank you, Gila. We're all here to inspire each other. I'm still reading. Nisan brings me joy always, says Irma. Yeah, that's wonderful. Carol, you're right on both counts, Nebuchadnezzar and Pharaoh. And you guys probably know that I think it's the Zohar that says that all of the big players, the enemies of old, will be brought back at this time to do their bad, to do their best, to do their bad, so that they can all be taken down in front of everybody for good. Do you know that? Isn't that cool? So that's that's God's sting operation, and it's happening. The Great Reset, Rosh Hashanah. I didn't hear that. It's interesting. Yeah, beautiful, Cheryl. Motivational bracelets. That's great. Carl, positive vibrations. Beautiful. Bookmouse prayer. Israel controls the constellations. When we're on our game, when we souls are on our game, we control things. God works through us. God wanted to do it by himself, guess who wouldn't be here? If we face Jerusalem 3 times a day, it's the same as being in Jerusalem. I don't know, Norman. It does. We are taught that in the place that where our thought is, we are. That we're really, 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 which is kind of exciting and kind of concerning also, right? But just it shows all the more importance of the metamorphosis, because we might sit around forever, like we could potentially. I'm speaking for myself, if I slip back into my old ways, which you guys are helping me never to do that, I hope, to do my best not to do that. That's why we need to change the wiring in the body, because in the brain and in the cells, because if we don't, we can have a great thought and we can slip back into a bad thought. And when we have a default programming that is triggered by that thought, by bad, I mean victim, when it's when we have, like Joe Dispenza says in What the Bleep, do we know nerves that fire together wire together? So what happens is, if we're used to having a thought that leads to a neurological progression that takes us to a depressed, angry feeling or negative action or both. So as long as we're on our, in a high state, we won't have that thought. But as soon as we get triggered, which we will, and have that thought, if we haven't changed the wiring, we're going to go right back to that conclusion. And then we're going to have a really bad thought, because I thought I was doing so well, and now how did I fall back again? We all have that. That happens to all of us. So here now in this challenge, we are using the energies to transform the wiring. Once we transform the wiring, even if we get triggered, we're going to go down a different path, because we will have created a different path. I'm talking neural pathways that will lead us to a different belief, a different thought, different emotion, and different action, different result, which will reinforce the new pattern. So when we change from the old to the new, we're unwiring the old and creating the new. That's when it's like they say. There's an analogy given at Hasidus, climbing up a ladder. That when you're think about climbing up a ladder. You put one foot. You have 1 foot here, stabilize, and you lift up a foot. You have 2 feet here, and you lift up 1 foot and put it on the other rung, and you're pulling yourself up. And then you take your next foot off when you're going up a rung. That's when you're the least stable. When you're standing in one place, you're the most stable, 2 feet. But when you lift up 1 foot and you're climbing higher, and there's gravity and you have to hold on, so that's when we're unstable. So we are continuously climbing now, and we want as best we can to change the wiring, which will automatically stabilize us and change. That will create meta stability, and that's what we're looking for. I did a cartoon of Obama as Pharaoh. Mashiach is for the cosmos, not just humanity, but humanity is the center of the cosmos, and humanity is we are the only people, apparently the only beings with free choice in the world, in the universe. The Rebbe said that, and I also recently heard someone else say that. Who was it? Some spiritual, maybe Dolores Cannon, I don't remember. Somebody. I always listen, and if I hear people say things that they have no way of knowing that I know from the Torah, then I'm like, oh, this person's tuned in. Of course, Mashiach is for every person. Mashiach is for everything. Mashiach is the purpose of creation, but we are the ones who are here to help, all of us. We're the ones who are here to make it real through us. To be here with everyone else in the community, where we'll all change the world together, very positive energy that only good things are happening. Yeah, we are literally co-creating and strengthening a morphic field. We are grabbing a dimension of reality that's real but not fully manifest, maybe not mostly manifest as of now. And by connecting to it, pulling from it, we are feeding back into it like the Earth's magnetic field and making it stronger. Morphic fields have their own laws of cause and effect. And the more people connect to them and draw from them and get results and emotions that feed back to them, the stronger they get, and the more they take over everything. We're not doing it. We don't have no clue the power of the forces that we have access to. That's just one of them. Literally, barely a clue. I said no clue, but some of us have some clue, but barely a clue. But the more we connect together to that field of redemption with that positive energy, as individuals, as collectives, as one soul tribe, ultimately as all of humanity, ultimately as all of creation, spiritual, physical, cosmic, galactic, the more we bring that into reality. And it's obvious at this point, if it wasn't before, that this is up to us. This is our mission. This is our purpose. This is our power. And God, says the Shekhinah is in exile. If we're in exile, let's get out of exile. I'm giving up all imitation. Jesse's giving up all imitation that you put on what Hashem can and will do. With you for the greater good. That's awesome. The guy who does computer predictions, huge event, May 7th or 8th. Well, that would be Pesach Sheni, maybe. Thank you, Book Mouse. Takes one to know one. Carl, your destiny is in spot. Okay. Visualizing you in spot right now. Okay, sorry, I'm just staring at the screen, but I want to see what you said. Okay, since you mentioned we have no idea the power we have access to, I feel that we're to walk in that. Do you believe we can speak healing and miracles over people? Of course. Absolutely. That's not my own thought. The Torah says every person has the power to bless. And I've seen myself. I learned energy healing at first like 17 years ago now? My first class. And how stunning to see in action that I could have an intention and then just breathe, and all of a sudden the person next to me, her symptoms disappeared. This stuff is real. We've just begun to touch the surface, like not even the tip of the iceberg, a cell on the tip of the iceberg. We're going to be co-creating worlds like there's no point in even using words. We're in a certain phase now. I'll end with this, but we're in a certain, and thank you for hanging out with me. It's so wonderful. And please like the video and share the video. And I appreciate the comments, because the more, literally, it's not just the more the merrier. The more we can join together, the more powerful the field will be, and the faster our positive aligned thoughts and intentions and actions are going to co-create a completely new reality. It is up to us. We're cells in the cosmic body, by the way. I'm talking about changing cells, but each of us, the Alter Rebbe, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, talks about this in a mimer, that every one of us is like a cell in the cosmic body of Adam. So talk about cell wiring and cell receptors as individual cells. And you know how cells connect, right? When one cell changes, that's how homeopathy works. Vibrational medicine works like that. Probably energy healing too, that one cell starts vibrating in a new way, but it's a positive, powerful, harmonious, coherent vibration, and others will pick it up. Entrainment, right? Entrainment. If you don't know about entrainment, look up entrainment and the metronomes. And you'll see really cool videos. These are all real things that we haven't used, and we never think about this. Just think about this. Just the fact that we're here right now and can connect like this, that was not the case just a couple decades ago. Even maybe, when did free conference call come about? Maybe 15 years ago, 16, 17, whatever, maybe less. It wasn't possible to connect. We didn't have Zoom. We couldn't just all sit on video. We couldn't just converse like this from all parts of the world at no cost even. In real speed, in real time. So that means that not only spiritually, emotionally, energetically, we can focus consciously. We really can be a collective with absolute ease, and anyone can get on and broadcast to your friends, to your own community, and some of you do, and do it more. And you can also share, what I broadcast, what others broadcast, if it resonates, and it doesn't take that long. Like, we're so poised and things are so accelerated. It does not take very long at this point for an idea to go around the world, and especially if it's God's idea. Okay, thank you for all the positive everything, and it's so I love you. I bless you. It's such a privilege. It's such a privilege. It's such a privilege. And if you feel shy and insecure, I was so shy and so insecure. Sometimes I still am. sometimes I really don't want to get on. But once I do, it's like, you know, when you make a decision that you're going to try to connect something that you know is true and real and important through you to others, when that's a commitment that you make and you step into it, even if you're reluctant at any given moment, I'm reluctant over and over and over again. Not always, but a lot of the time. I have to be really excited to feel comfortable getting online. But once I get online, I get really excited. So that's the thing, you know, when you make yourself useful in ways that further God's plan and our own soul's missions, our collective soul mission, our personal soul mission, you get a lot of help. So much help. Okay, I'll let you go.